Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Part-Time Artist Podcast, where we learn how to be a better artist and how to keep creative, how to stay creative, especially in times like this where the world is ending, this country is just at an absolute all-time high with its fascist ways. And here we are fighting the good fight, stuck in the middle and figuring out what to do here. So before we jump into the show, I'm a little under the weather today. I've been fighting off a fever the past couple days. But before we start today, I really want to acknowledge the people of Minnesota, the people of Chicago, which is where our guest today is from. Just all the people that are out there, like, just fighting the good fight and just really making a difference. Even if you don't feel like you're making a difference, you are making a difference. Okay. And if you're not out there in the streets, you can still make a difference. And one of the big ways that I've embraced making a difference this year in 2026 and the tail end of 2025 is choosing ways to educate myself. Like I'm choosing to read books. I've joined book clubs and I've been, tapping into people like Amanda Seales. I've been watching her show where she's talking to people on Views from Amandaland every Wednesday and just really trying to tap into how to educate myself in a way where I can also help put other people on, especially other white people, because as white people, we really have a lot of work to do to dismantle and confront white supremacy in America. So the best way that you can do that, if you're also a white person like me, is educate yourself and really try to educate the people in your circle and around you, and also show up whenever you can to demonstrate. I think what we got to do is educate and demonstrate. That is the 1-2 punch that we need to get really familiar with. And right now I'm in my educate incubation because I'm just under the weather. But before we jump into the show, which is a really awesome show today, and I really hope you guys check out this album that we're talking about today, because this is music for your soul. Okay, this is why I called this genre soul. It's soul, man. It's hitting you in the soul. It's for your soul. It's gonna help your soul. This music that we listen to today, like this album that we listen to and we tap into, like, this is about being vulnerable. There's themes of surrender, acceptance, grief. There's a lot of things packaged into this, and a lot of artists worked on this album and collaborated. So this was a true piece of art. So I really hope you take, the time to put this album on your list, whether you buy it on Bandcamp or you just stream it on the app or whatever, but just take note, add it to your wish list, take note to listen to this in its entirety, because the interludes and the skits and the musings and all those things in between songs are really, really cool, and they really do offer some introspective moments. Okay, and aside from that, I want to also let you know about the things in the podcast description. Couple things that I endorse: Cart Music and Do It Now t-shirts. Both of those things are based in Philly. Cart Music is great for mixing, mastering, sessions, video sessions, like just really cool stuff there. And Do It Now, great for merch. And even cassettes, if you're still out there trying to get cassettes made, God bless you. hit up Matt at Do It Now. Also, I got rid of the Sauna Box link. They are always out of stock, man. They are selling out constantly, and they have some really big name people that are endorsing them, and like Terrell Owens, like all these big athletes are now caught up with Sauna Box, so they don't need my shout outs anymore. They're doing just fine, but I have instead replaced it with Planet Fitness. I am back on the Planet Fitness grind. I have yet to go this year, but I did just sign up, and you can too for $1 down if you use my link. And I will get a free month of Planet Fitness. And speaking of free months, you can get a free month if you use my code for Visible, which is a cell phone service. And it's really easy. You can keep your phone number. You can keep your phone. You can, in 15 minutes, download that eSIM and have a whole new cell phone service, unlimited data and hotspot and all that cool stuff, and even options for global data as well. I use Visible as well. You'll get a free month. I'll get a free month. Win-win. It's awesome. And with that, the last thing I want to mention before we jump into the show is it's February, which means that the Black History Month radio show is coming up, and the tentative date is going to be February 28th, Saturday. It's going to be live on YouTube. So if you are an artist of color, if you are a Black artist, hit me up with your song. Send me a Bandcamp link. DM me. Give me some recommendations to artists of color. The Black History Month radio show will feature exclusively Black artists and artists of color. So you can comment on this video. You can hit me up with a DM at Roger Stays Creative. But yeah, get at me. I will be doing my best to compile a really awesome radio show for you. You are hearing it first. Okay, so don't be shy. Hit me up. All right. And now with that, let's jump into the show. All right, I have with me a very, very special guest here from the Netherlands of Chicago, the frozen tundra that is Chicago. I have Shratchy, aka Seth. Welcome to the show, dude.
What's up, Roger? Thanks for having me.
Now, Seth, before we jump into all the stuff that you have going on, which is really, really cool, by the way, and I can't wait to deep dive into this. But the first thing I have to do is I have to ask you, because you are a professional at this, being from Chicago, I need to know, what are the best ways to embrace the winter time / maybe even avoid the winter time?
Those are two very different questions.
I know, but at the same time, it's like I need to know both, because it's like sometimes I need to lean into it and sometimes I need to figure out an escape route. You know what I mean?
And yeah, I think 2 words for each one. I think for surviving it, 2 words: big coat. For getting like out of it, 3 words is family in Florida. So I try to. I'm from Florida originally, so I try to get back there. I don't know, especially when it gets below and chill -30 that it was like last week. So
-30.
It doesn't get that bad in Philly.
When I woke up today, it was -2, and I layered up and walked to school.
That's pretty
and
bad.
I was like not happy about it. But it's like I feel like I have nothing to complain about, because -30 is like, oh my god, what the heck?
I don't know. Especially being from Florida, I'm like, if I can figure out ways to stay indoors and everyone here is as miserable as I am, but they just keep living here anyway.
Yeah.
So that's just the mentality that I try to bring to it. It's like, well, I'm gonna keep living here.
You know, my dad and I, we were in Chicago in September for the Riot Fest, And
yeah.
And we were
I was there too.
Yes, wasn't that great? Ugh.
It was great. Yeah.
I still have Blink-182 sperm confetti in my wallet from that.
We left. I was there with my partner. We left early during Blink because we stayed all the way through Weird Al, and
yes,
which was worth it. But by the time we got over to Blink, it was like I didn't think that many people were allowed in the festival. But
it was brutal.
Ridiculous.
It was brutal. Yeah, there were so many people there. It's always worth it, but man, is it like it's a hell of an effort, that fest, isn't it? Wasn't it a great festival?
Great.
Oh my gosh.
I know. Yeah. I don't know.
But my dad and I we were staying with some friends, and it was my dad's first time in Chicago, and he was like, this place is fantastic. I can't believe that it's not like overcrowded. Like the winters must be really bad and keep people away from here. And they were like, yeah, they're really bad.
Yeah. No, that's the saying I've often heard is if it was that nice year round, everybody would live here.
Oh yeah.
So you got to weed people out naturally.
Oh my gosh. And what the NFL did was so unfair, made all the Chicago playoff games at night. I was like, why couldn't they be during the day? It's like, come on. Why do you have to do the Chicago people like that?
Yeah, honestly, I didn't even realize that was like an intentional thing they did. I just knew that, LA came here. It was like 3 degrees. And I was like, oh, okay, we have this in the bag. All those California players aren't going to be able to handle it. And then they handled it.
Yeah. They handled it. I can tell you my life hack, which apparently is something that not a lot of people do, is for embracing the winter, is I actually put plastic bags on my feet before I put them in my shoes.
That's interesting.
And it's a complete
that helps, like, with the wetness.
Insulation rather.
Yeah. That's interesting.
And
all right.
I also do it with my hands. Like if you have plastic, like gloves that you would get in a kitchen, latex gloves. Yeah. Those are my glove liners.
That is really interesting. Okay, because I've been getting like blisters bad and things like that this year, and like research online is like, oh, you're like getting too wet or sweaty in your like gloves and things. So I think that is like I'm gonna probably try that tonight.
It is it is something. My hands come out and they are toasty once they are insulated with some plastic. And today I stuck my feet in some old bread bags. And when I was teaching my class, I didn't even realize that I forgot to take them out. So I'm teaching this music class, and I'm just like, oh my God, there's still plastic bags in my shoes. It's pretty hilarious.
The kids don't make fun.
Yeah, well, I was like, hold on, I gotta take these out, and I took my shoes off, and I was in this kindergarten class, and they all screamed. They were like, "What are you doing?" And I took these bags off. I was like, "Oh, this was just how I walked to school today, or whatever." It was hilarious.
You're the cool teacher, especially to the 5-year-olds.
They definitely saw that for the first time.
Yeah. No, winter lessons from Philly. I appreciate it.
Now, Seth, let's talk about what you have put out recently. Let's talk a lot about White Flags. All right. The first thing I want to ask you is this was a tall task. We got 23 tracks altogether, 9 songs, 13 skits, musings, theater / even podcast clips or whatever, discussions even.
Like calling them podcast clips, yeah.
Clips or conversations or somebody was wearing a wire. Where did the concept of flags originate from? Because this isn't your first album to have flags, because in December 2023, we started out with the red flags, and now we've moved on to the white ones. Where did the flags concepts first originate from for you?
It's a great question with I wonder how interesting of an answer it really is, but I I'm like I'm from the advertising design kind of world originally, and so I have this logo that I made when it's like, okay, you got to make a logo and you got to sell
Right.
yourself the way you sell a brand, and so my initials are SS, and like I kind of figured out like a flag kind of logo, like that didn't look too SS,
Be
like Nazi,
careful.
anything like that. I know. People are like, "Are you sure?" I was like, "No, I think it looks different." So, like, I figured out this thing, and it was like a flag. It looked like okay, and so and I'm
Mm.
like huge in the color red, so I was like, okay, it's kind of like a red flag thing, and I was like, oh, that feels like a good self-deprecating kind of title for a first album. Like, am I
Mm.
kind of a red flag? Like, also, I feel like there's kind of this kind of angry, a little more like cynical, angry kind of edge to what is very peaceful music otherwise. So I was like, okay,
Mm.
that's a good album title and it is representative of me and a thing that I've had. So I did that for the first one. And I think for the second album, it was like, okay, I think it would be nice to have a counterpoint to that. And like, okay, that was the kind of the war album. This is kind of like more of like a surrender album and more like kind of giving up
Mm.
fights and things like that. And the skits and the podcast episodes, whatever you want to call it, really came late, like 3/4 of the way into the album. I was like, oh, I think there's like a concept, and it would be nice to kind of emulate lots of albums that do this kind of
Mhm.
sketch talking musings kind of thing, and like people in the community, and it was a big community that came together to make it, so it felt sense like it made sense to reach out to them and make it this big uh group endeavor and group kind of therapy and philosophizing.
So interesting. And I would love to unpack how the group dynamic came together. When I first downloaded the album, of course, with Bandcamp has this, I don't know if they do this on purpose, but it is unique to Bandcamp where if you buy an album or any piece of music on Bandcamp, the only data that's missing is the genre. It always comes out as an unknown genre. So Bandcamp really
Weird.
puts the onus on you
Yeah.
to manually put in the genre for everything that I buy and download or whatever. That's just how it is. And so for this one, I was like, where do I go from here? And I thought the best genre that I could put on this was soul, and it was cool because I don't think I've done soul too often. Is that the genre you would put on this, or would you do something else?
Well, first of all, kudos to Bandcamp for fighting the whole genre as marketing capitalism thing. I don't know, but unintentionally or not, I don't know. But yeah, I've started to use the term soul rock because I'm like, I
Yeah,
don't think I feel a little bit appropriating of like a soul music space.
yeah,
So I'm like, I feel very much inspired by that world and those kind of artists. But I was like, the rock feels like it's that kind of like darker, angrier kind of tinge that I was talking about before, but also like it feels like a more confident space for me to occupy. But still, like mostly, I would rather be like a soul musician than like a rock star or anything like that. So I call
right.
it soul rock, but I would definitely be happy if you thought it felt more in the soul world than the rock world.
It definitely has like soul roots. It's soulish. But the thing
Yeah, it's
about
soulish. I
soul
should use
is,
that one.
yeah, that's the thing about soul music is that it feels like unless it sounds vintage, it can't be soul, right? Like contemporary soul stuff has to even have maybe that vintage sound to it for it to be authentically within that genre. But I don't know, I'm no expert on soul. I would let's dive into this first tune here, but before we do that, I just want to give you the opportunity to possibly further introduce white flags to us. And I'm going to introduce white flags to us first by reading off these questions that you have on Bandcamp. And they start with, what are your white flags? What will you surrender, set aside, or sacrifice for what really matters? What can you give up when you take a deep breath and count to 10? We have flags that tell us what to seek, what to avoid, and what lies somewhere in between. But how often do we look at ourselves and ask what we would offer up for the life we want? What are we willing to give up, and what's important enough to give up something for? What are your white flags? Now, Seth.
Those are great questions.
Now, Seth, this is a part of your album's concept. Can you unpack why you chose to preface the album with these questions and introduce this white flags concept to us before we start listening?
Yeah. I mean, I mentioned a little bit before, like the last album was Red Flags, and like I wanted like a counterpoint to like not just kind of being angry and waging war, but like what's the opposite of that? And kind of wanted to just explore that question because it felt like a thing that's not talked about as much, like green flags and red flags, especially like relationships and people. Like I feel like that's a huge conversation on the internet, but not like this idea of like acceptance and kind of relinquishing control, which is really hard. And especially like politically and in the world, it feels like a lot of times the question is not giving up and surrendering and setting aside, especially nowadays. But it's also been really hard to like always be waging war and always be fighting for things. And it's just something I believe in my own personal life and struggles of like, I'm not going to accomplish everything that I want and everything that I'm looking to win and succeed at. So how do I set those things aside and kind of really focus and prioritize? And it's hard for me to give up those things that aren't as important, but it all feels important. And just kind of practicing that and meditating on that is kind of what I think the album is about. Hopefully while listening to fun music too, but having a little message behind it.
I love that, and I can't wait to talk a little bit more about it. But let's dive into this first tune. This is the 6th track. I'm going to use the word track because we got a lot of tunes here, but this is the 6th track on the LP. This one is called TBH, and it features Kristen Moret. Check it out.
To be honest, you ruined the city for me. My friends are gone and I'm all alone. To be honest, last time I had a full night of sleep was when I thought you loved me. I hate your chest, your smell, your hair, your lips, every little thing, even your way of over-organizing. To be honest, if you had left me alone like you should, we'd still be good. Because I miss you every morning, every night. You're there with me in my mind. I can't leave you behind. And I miss you every morning, every night. You'll be with me in my mind. Can I leave you behind? Remember our first night together? I felt like I always knew you. Fuck it out our past nights too. To be honest, if you hadn't done half the shit you done, I'd still be doing you. Because I miss you every morning, every night. You're there with me in my mind. I can't leave you behind. And I miss you every morning, every night. You'll be with me in my mind.
All right, that tune was called TBH, To Be Honest, and it is on White Flags, where you can go to Schrachee.bandcamp.com, SCHRACHEE.bandcamp.com. You can also go to Schrachee.com or Instagram.com/Schrachee or at Schrachee on Instagram. All the links are in the episode description. Now, further unpacking White Flags, you know, I did a little bit of a spiritual journey, and one of the first books that I bought to start, you know, doing some more spiritual work and doing some therapy work on myself was, I bought this book called oh my gosh, there was actually two books, but the first book was The Untethered Soul, and it was by Michael Singer. Oh, but hold on, there was another, The Journey Beyond Yourself. And Michael Singer also had a book called The Surrender Experiment, which I was like, ooh, that sounds cool. And then I found this book. The second book that I found was called Letting Go by David Hawkins. And the subtitle to that book is The Pathway to Surrender. So these concepts of surrender started to come up for me. And through therapy and spirituality, it seemed like there is this theme in humanity where that is like the ultimate end goal, is to find yourself in a place where you are cool with surrendering, and you're not going to, like you were talking about, waging war or battle or try to be right all the time and just feeding the ego. Like there comes a moment in time for all of us where we just step back and observe and be at peace and accept. Was there a moment for you that triggered that, or made that you were aware of that all, and that's kind of like what led to this album ultimately? Or is it something maybe you observed in someone else? Or is that the idea at all? Is this idea of just surrendering yourself ultimately?
Yeah. Very good questions. How long are we allowed to have for this podcast?
As long as you want.
I'm just kidding.
As long as you want. People will know my 200th episode went into the 4-hour range. We don't typically do that, but I had on shout out to Joey Steele, and once Joey Steele starts going, you better just get out of his way. You know, he's just that kind of guy. But yeah, no, I would love to hear what your thoughts are about that, because I do think it is something that is really cool to see, because it's not something that I've necessarily even connected with too many other people on, this idea of surrender. So I was curious to know if you had any experiences like that, and if that ties into your record at all.
I mean, yeah, big time. So, I mean, I'm trying to think without getting this show too heavy. I think this whole experience was, basically the last 2 years. And during that time, my mom passed away. I was let go from a job, and I had a temporary pause in my relationship that we figured out and resumed, but it was a lot of ego and a lot of just a lot of hardship and things like that. Not the easiest couple years. And I think there's already a lot of feelings I've had about life not going ways that I wanted to, or certain
sure
expectations, even just in my day-to-day life of oh, this is going to take an hour, and then the whole day is gone. That kind of, just that feeling is very used to me, but it felt very magnified the last couple years. And it was like during this time where I was like, I'm really gonna go all in on this album. And so I think, it's already a difficult process for anybody making music and doing personal expression in that kind of way. And so, but especially like to make it feel conceptual in that way, it felt important to me. And, I'm glad that you related to it with, especially the books, especially Letting Go was recommended to me by Kristen, who sang on the last song we listened to. So that's it's serendipity. And I don't know. Yeah, it just feels very important. And, I'm inspired by a lot of people who are very vigilant and keep fighting and keep doing things. Regardless, there's a lot of, brave people out there doing it right now. I think my mom was someone who was doing that a lot in her own way, fighting for cancer. And I think that is really important. But I also, felt like it was important to mention this importance of surrendering and, accepting what we can control. And
yes.
It's a balance, like everything.
Yeah, that word control is like, as you were describing stuff, it was like, oh man, it's like, it feels like everything you're doing, you're just like losing more and more control of everything. I can't control my day. I can't control, the people in my life. I can't control, jobs and like all of these things. And yeah, it's, it can really make life seem so chaotic, as well when that happens, which also kind of makes it a lot more impressive that you were able to coordinate all of these tracks with all of these different artists. I mean, that must have been a nightmare.
It was a dream. I don't know about nightmare or no. I mean, musicians are incredible kinds of people, and I guess being one myself, I can't speak that separately from it, but that's the fun, that's kind of the chaos. Like I feel like my version of the surrendering has kind of been embracing the chaos and just kind of seeing what happens in the moment, because it feels easier to do that than to kind of make people do an exact thing I have in mind, or kind of force a situation that I wanted to happen, but probably will not happen, or not without a lot of hair being pulled out.
Yeah, and I think also I feel as though the other folks that you've involved in this process, I have to think that this was also something that helped them as well, because as I'm listening to this record and we hear people talking in between songs and unpacking like certain concepts and opening up in a lot of ways, like there was this, I don't know, there's this idea that there's this human element to this where it sort of taps in to us. Instead of just kind of relating to the music, it's like we're relating to the whole human process of this in a way, which might sound a little bit vague, but these musings and these skits or whatever, I think they really are something that packs a punch, and they're really heavy, and it really reminds me of the Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. And as I'm listening to this, it really brought me back to that, and then I started connecting a lot of just moments for that when I was listening to that album, and now I'm listening to this album, and I'm connecting with, I'm making all of these connections, right? And then different parts of my brain are getting, lit up or whatever. What was the inspiration for you to include those skits and musings and that kind of stuff? And And were a lot of these, were they even like scripted, or was it just like you threw on a mic and asked a question? Like how did these things come about?
Yeah. I don't know. I appreciate the Lauryn Hill comparison for sure. I mean, hers was a big version that did that.
Yeah.
I think the other ones that came to mind, I think Frank Ocean, Blonde, I think has like a section that he has of people talking here and there. Yeah. Anderson .Paak does that on Malibu. I'm gonna kill myself if I get it wrong. I think it's Jasmine Sullivan, and she has an album Hotels that all these women talking about like sexuality and like their experience dating and just being with people. And I'm sure there are others, but like it's definitely become a more and more common thing, and it felt I've just kind of always had that in the back of my head. And like I mentioned, when this white flags, kind of like, what does that really mean in the sense of green flags and red flags? Like, what are people talking about this? And I couldn't really find a lot. And so it felt like it made sense to bridge that connection. So, I mean, mostly it was the people who worked on the album. It was a lot of close childhood friends and family.
Wow.
And even these people, a lot of musicians like who are great close friends, but like had never really intimately had a conversation like that, and it really was just let's get on a phone call. Unfortunately, I'm a big Android guy, but the Android recording is bad, so I recommend for anyone who's doing it, if you have an iPhone, it has like a built-in thing. It's like super easy. Now I know about Discord, so that's an even better thing. But it really was just like, hey, let's get on a phone and let's talk. And I had these questions that I shared that you shared at the top of the show, and people just kind of poured out in these really unexpected ways.
Wow. So those questions were the ones that they were referencing.
Yeah. And like no two were the same, which was really fascinating and fun to experience. And just kind of parsing through, like if I went with my selects, the album would have been like 2-3 hours. Like it would have been too long, so it was really hard to just weed out what felt important. But also, so like I was with the musicians, but even like my family and friends, like having kind of this intimate conversation that we never really had in such a deep way. Obviously talking all the time, but like really just intentionally being like, how do you feel about the world and things that you can and can't control was very intimate in a beautiful way.
Yeah. And with that being said, is there any one particular moment or recording story that is your favorite from this album? Was there any, like, maybe your favorite song or your favorite track or your favorite answer that you got? What's your favorite moment of the White Flags?
I was afraid you would ask that. The one that comes to mind, like it really is hard because like they all, some are really funny, some are really like heartfelt, some are like,
or just share one moment that is cool.
The one that comes to mind is my uncle, who is a music engineer and has worked in music tech for probably close to 40 years, maybe more, and he has this story I think it's like near the middle of the album, about working at a warehouse in San Francisco. What's that? The forklift, exactly. Forklift, yes. Some guy destroys like one of those super mixer boards from like when you picture a studio that costs like close to $1 million, and he destroyed it. And it was interesting because Uncle's a very smart, educated guy, and he talked a lot about what he learned from reading the Torah or from being married for 30 plus years, and he's a PhD, so he had lots of like very interesting educational things today, but he kind of mentioned the story as like a one-off thing of like, this is a crazy thing that happened. And I don't think he even realized how much like that story was about surrendering and giving up, and really kind of like summarize the whole white flag feeling. And also, it's the only one, you know, I got the album mastered here at a mastering engineer, and the guy was very like quiet, silent, just focused on getting the job done.
Yeah.
And that was the only story that like he actually like chuckled and laughed out loud at. And I think probably like because of that music tech understanding of like, oh my God, one of those mixer boards. But also just like it really does hit, I think, on that level of and what is important, especially like for a company. Like it made me think about capitalism, all that kind of stuff, like what is really important in life. And so I would say the forklift.
Amazing. That's awesome. Now we're gonna throw it back to another tune here. This one comes a little bit later on the record. This is the 21st track, and it features Barry Jean Fontenot, possibly. I don't know if I say any of these names right, but the song is called To Get Her. Check it out.
Well, I'd like to say that I'm a good man, but it's not sincere. They say all good men are gay or taken, so why am I still here? Well, I got a girl that really loves me, but she won't be mine, 'cause I can't find the right time to finally open up my eyes and see that to get her, it's by staying together, promising that forever things will only get better. They'll get better. Future sure looks bad and broken, seen through shattered glass. But the only way you'll ever know it is giving up the past. If I want to show her that I need her, I might as well decide. Yes, I can find the right time to finally leave the past behind and see that together it's by staying together, promising that forever things will only get better. By staying together, promising that forever things will only get better now. Gotta take that leap forward or else I'll fall behind. 'Cause the future's not as bad as I make it in my mind. And I know that this time is the right time to finally open up my eyes. The way to get her is by staying together. Oh, promising that forever things will only get better.
All right, that tune was called To Get Her. It's the 21st track on the White Flags LP. And now, White Flags came out, what was it, December 2025?
Mm-hmm.
Red Flags came out December 2023. What flags can we expect to come out in December of 2027?
Whatever Pantone picks as the color of the year.
Purple?
I kind of unintentionally followed that, actually.
Yeah.
No, I don't know. I think probably it'll be something different next time, but I'm nothing without a concept, so maybe I'll keep with it. We'll see.
Yeah. How do you think this album, if you can share something about you personally that you feel like maybe the progression of Red Flags to White Flags and now post White Flags, like this progression in this album, how has this changed you as a person? And you kind of talked a little bit about the hardships that you were going through. Like, has this album helped you on a healing journey at all? Or is there anything that you can share on how this album sort of helped change who you are?
Yeah. I really no, it's a really good question. And I think it's hard to say whether it healed me or not. I'm obsessed and I need to do it. Like, it's hard to say, like,
yeah,
in that sense of healing, but I think it really empowered me in a lot of ways. I mean, the biggest way is that I mixed it myself, which I knew how to do for Red Flags, but it was at a time where, like, I was really busy. I was traveling a lot, and I thought I don't need to focus on that, and so I outsourced it to a really talented mixer and masterer. But it felt, as much as we were talking about letting go of control, I was like, oh, it's not exactly how I would have done it, and really
wow,
me in a way that I was like, I need to feel like I am delivering through, and that's part of the expression, that's part of the music. So let me really get into this, and learned the hard way of thinking. I was sure before my birthday in April last year it would be done, and then an extra 9 months go by. To no one's surprise, everyone's like, yeah, that seems like a normal amount of time for it to take, but it was, so
right.
But doing it myself really was it just felt very intimate. Like, it kind of drove me crazy a little bit, but also I don't know if I could imagine not doing it at this point. And I think about going forward of maybe I'll find somewhere in the middle of work with a mixer, versus just completely sending it off. But that really empowered me and made me feel confident. I think the other biggest way is it was a big team of people that made this album possible. I think it was 18, 19 people, something like that. And kind of ringleader for that, and kind of giving direction and teaching people songs was really difficult but rewarding in a way. And I mentioned earlier, of giving into the chaos of working with another musician who has their own ideas and their own interpretations of things, it's really fun, but also feeling in my power to be like, this is how I would do it. Can you do it like this? And giving direction in a really warm, collaborative way is a really hard balance, because you can kind of give up and just kind of let it be a thing that you don't really like, or you can kind of slave driver it into something that is exactly what you want, but there's zero fun and zero good relationship with the musician at the end. So it's been a lot about that balance, but I really feel like I learned a lot about hitting it through making it. So I think those are the biggest ways.
Now, I also want to ask too, like there's so many people collaborating, and mastering the art of collaborating is like such a process. How did you have all of these people in mind, or was it just sort of a snowball that you pushed off the mountain, and all of a sudden you're hitting up this person and that person and this person, and then you're getting recommended, oh, this person should do. Like, how did all of these people get involved?
If Avalanche is a pretty good descriptor of it. No, I don't know. It's been a joy living here for almost 9 years, and like I still don't know if I'm like in the music community, but I've definitely tried to parasite off of it for a long time. And, just meeting a person left and right. And I would say everybody that I reached out to, either I already kind of had a good connection with, or definitely through working on it, had a big connection with them. And a lot of them were second, third degree connections, like if the drummer introduced me to the sax player, or meeting random people at a bar or on a online site. But it's very random, but I kind of just tried to appreciate the people who came into my life, and some connections worked out, some didn't. But all the people that did make it on were people who I really appreciated, and really I had like a good time working with, because at this point I think that matters a lot more to me than like who's gonna get me the top 40 hit. Like, I just want to enjoy this connection, because the downside of the mixing and mastering by myself was it's a very lonely thing, just sitting at a computer and
it's never done.
It's never done. And then the classic, the plugin's been off the whole time. I've been I'll
put it in your car, like, what?
Exactly.
What is this?
No, please, the garbage that I've made myself listen to. But that part is very solitary, but like actually getting in the room and recording or playing something together is really magical. And that is anyone who I feel like I can do that with is worth keeping around and trying to have those interactions as much as possible, because that's where the fun comes in.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Seth, this album is awesome, and I knew from when we first got introduced to this for the radio show. Yeah. When I started listening to this, I was like, oh man, there's like so much more to this situation than just this one song. When we were listening to Lie on the radio show, and if you didn't hear that, go back in time for the radio show that was done at the end of December. Right, I'm assuming not long after the album was released. Like
no, you reached out, and it was like right at the perfect time. So I was really glad that worked out, and that whole radio show was fantastic, and I recognized a lot of Chicago names, but everyone was fantastic. So great job curating, honestly.
Chicago is just awesome. I can't believe it.
Yeah,
awesome music.
I hope you can get back for more than Riot Fest. There's lots of great venues and shows. I mean, Riot Fest is a good one, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But
I love it up there. I really do. And that section of the radio show was just so impressive. The different genres that we had and stuff like that. It was really cool to see the stuff that Chicago had to offer. And speaking of Chicago, you also like donated I think when you had your album sales, you had the album pre-orders donated through or to like the Chicago Food Coalition of some sort. How did you get affiliated with them?
Yeah, no, they're great. They're just kind of a big presence here. Like I was kind of just doing research of causes of support and just kind of realizing everybody and everything kind of goes through them, like as many organizations as there are, and especially, you know, at the time of putting this together, you know, people were without SNAP benefits and food stamps, so it felt very timely. And you know, every neighborhood has their own group, but they all kind of filter through. It's the Chicagoland Food Sovereignty Coalition and the Greater Chicago Food Depository. And I've gotten to start volunteering with the Food Coalition a little bit, and they're just it's like so simple of just get food and give it to people. Like it's such a no-brainer kind of thing to do, and so it felt just like I enjoy making this music. It's more just about, at this point, I just want the music out there and being listened to and heard. So it's just like, as an extra motivator, I just really wanted to help with that cause. And so, yeah, the pre-order album sales, and we did a show called Key Lemon Pie at a place called Lemon here, that we, I think, raised $500-600 between everybody, paying for the album and buying tickets to the show. And
amazing.
I couldn't ask for better.
I think that's going to be a lot of the future of like underground shows, is just going to be straight up benefit shows, because it's like, we're not making money anyway. And like, even if we get handed $100, $50, you know, whatever at the end of the night, it's like, we might as well just like pull all the bands, just pull it together and like put it to something where it will actually like make a difference like that, you know? So I foresee this concept being something that is hopefully going to be more of a thing in the future. Not that it's not already a thing, but I think it might behoove us underground musicians to make it more of a regular thing, you know, like almost every show is a benefit for something, you know, like Collective Scream does a lot of benefit shows in New York City. And like that, when my band did that, I was just like, oh, we should just do this for every show, you know? And with what's going on now, with, you know, people struggling to get benefits and get food and get all this stuff, it feels like now more than ever, it feels like we should embrace this concept of just pulling it together and finding something where it can get to people that it will actually make a difference for. So it's really awesome. The whole thing, Seth, is really awesome. I hope you guys take a listen to this album. You know, it is not as daunting as it looks. People can go look at an album, 23 tracks. What is this? It's not as daunting as it looks. It's like it's enough for like your commute somewhere, whatever, like just throw it on, and I promise you it takes you places, you know, it really does. So Seth, thank you so much for coming on the show, sharing this with us. And with that, this last tune is called Shadow of a Doubt, and it also features Kristen Moret. Rip on, everybody. Stay creative.
When 'cause every day the sun was out. Like it keep you seeing something far beyond the shadow of a heartbroken to have my heart broken by you. But even in the shadow, we slide through. But come on, baby, anyone can see it coming. Any day the sun will out. I can keep you seeing someday.